Now moving on, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture says farmers under the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative will this year enjoy benefits similar to cocoa farmers as it registers 1,000 licensed buying companies, LBCs. The LBCs, which have been registered by the ministry, will buy produce from the farmers at fixed prices. Government has indicated in 2018 the number of beneficiaries under the program will be increased from 200,000 to 500,000. According to technical advisor at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Kwesi Kobo, government is committed to sustaining the program. He spoke to me in an exclusive interview.
The idea of last year was to reach out to 200,000 farmers. We reached over close to 200,000 farmers. This year, the target is 500,000 farmers. As you can see, the procurement process has started. Also, last year we started what we call the biometric registration of these farmers. That is, know where they are, know something about them, where their land is, for purpose of planning and monitoring. So we're also concurrently building up a database of farmers we have in this country. So this year, that's the target, to reach out to these farmers. We're also looking at the marketing aspect of it, supplying to schools and also creating a market for these farmers to absorb. So a lot of market activities are going on. They're supplying the schools through the school feeding program and also the free HSS, through the buffer stock company. A lot of suppliers are ongoing. A lot of LBCs, what let me call it, licensed buying companies have been registered and licensed to undertake this on behalf of the buffer stock. So a lot of things are ongoing. We had close to 500 LBCs registering with the buffer stock. About more than 500, I believe. I'll probably even say 1,000. And I know that some of them have gone through a vetting process and they're actually in the field buying. That I know for a fact. And that is also creating the pool for some of the commodities. And we've also seen quite good yields. We are still, don't forget that we've just gone through the last season, the minor and then the season and north, when I compare some of the data in terms of yield increments. Because one of the key ideas was to increase productivity. That is, we have a certain yield per hectare. We want to see it increase. Because don't forget that when your productivity increases, farmers' income goes higher. Because your revenue is your price times your quantity. So let the farmer focus on the quantity. We're also mindful, and that's why the marketing is very critical, that we don't create what we call the cobweb effect, where there's too much production, and as such, prices will fall, and then people refuse to go into production because there's no incentive to do so. So that's why the marketing wing is also very critical. And this is where a lot of warehouses have been identified and are being rehabilitated to accommodate this excess feeding now, and as we roll out the PFJ.
From how you're explaining the system with the LBCs and the farmers, we are seeing something like a cocoa outgrower arrangement, a rubber outgrower arrangement. Would someone be right in suggesting that?
Well, I mean, nucleus outgrower schemes is something that works in most countries. I mean, the idea is that smallholder farmers will have to, someone has to help them get access to good seed, good fertilizer, but most importantly, also good markets, and also technical training to ensure that they're able to produce properly, proper land preparation. And don't forget that we have a database of all the farmers who are recipients of seed fertilizer. We are keeping this database. It's very important because you need it for planning purposes. So for every district, we are very clear in our minds how many farmers benefited and what kind of projections we're expecting in each district, even within each region. I'm asking, very critical for us.
Yeah, I'm asking that question in particular because in interaction with farmers, what I find is that, what I am told, I should say, is that the difference between the average farmer and a cocoa farmer, or if you go to the Western region, a rubber farmer, is that there is someone who can easily buy his produce. Yeah. And so he's always able to turn that cash over on a sustainable venture. How have these 200,000 farmers been affected in that vein?
Well, that's what I said. It's the same nucleus, whether cocoa, whether rubber sector, whether agricultural sector. It's the nucleus agro scheme. What we've done is to create or mimic that situation whereby, because that cocoa farmer also has access to good seedlings, has access to fertilizer, and that we've done under PFJ. That same farmer has cocoa board buying its products. That's also done. That's why we have LBCs who have been contracted to pick up these maize, that is maize beyond what the farmer requires for his own domestic requirements. That also has been done. What does Cocoa Board do? It also provides technical assistance to farmers because you need to optimize your yield. And that's also been done where under this program, a lot of essential agents have been recruited. The idea is that come this year, next year, about 3,000 agents will have been recruited to supplement the numbers in the district. Because we are trying to do what we call reduce the farmer to essential agent ratio. And that means that you're talking about a more effective way of helping the farmers improve their good agricultural practices. So you're right in that sense. That's the case. We're trying to use the private sector to stimulate this whole arrangement.
So where does the private sector come in?
The LBC is private sector. The fertilizer supply is the private sector. The seed supply is the private sector. The farmer is the private sector. What our government is doing is to create an environment. Let them have access to seed. Let them have access to good fertilizer, good essential services. But the private sector are all engaged. That's what government is doing. You're creating the space. You're enabling an environment for people to tap into it. And that's exactly what we're doing.
I would really love it if we were able to put a number or a ballpark figure on how much was paid out to farmers in 2017.
Once you paid out, in one sense, we are still purchasing maize. I mean, when maize, you harvest maize after maybe 110 days. You have to go through a process of drying and so forth. So farmers are still, maize is ongoing, it's being sold. These data, we keep on collecting data. We've given quite a lot of letters. I mean, I'm sure in the next few weeks, we'll have a fair idea of how much of purchases has been done. But it's ongoing.
From the estimates that you have, what do you expect to expend through these LBCs on the farmer?
Because the farmer got fertilizer at 50% of the subsidized price, which is about 57 cities. He got seed at 50% of the subsidized price. Who benefited? The farmer. So on the production side, the farmer is benefiting. On the revenue side, I'm saying farmers' products are being purchased. Okay, because at the end of the day, unless your checks, and I hope I was going to make a comment, unless your checks says contrary, is that maize is being purchased as we speak now. What I'm saying is that we are not putting these figures together. Sometimes you've got to be extremely careful how you manage data, because you want to be sure, you want to verify before you give out data. You're in a rush or prematurely give out data, it's misconstrued and certain. So I'd rather err on the caution. Data purchases are still ongoing. Let us put it together. Then we can say in this district, farmers produce X amount of maize, this amount was purchased. In that district, in this region, farmers produce X amount of maize, X amount of purchase. Then those data are given to you in a way that we all can appreciate and make sense out of it. Yes.
So do you have a price per?
It's a free market. If a farmer believes, for example, that you are an LBC, and then you're offering me a certain price, and you can offer me a price higher, there's nothing send the farmers way not to offer his goods at that price. That's the whole idea of free market pricing. You sell, and that's when we're doing as, because in cocoa board, you are mandated to sell a cocoa to cocoa board, and then a cocoa value chain. And in this way, you're not necessarily mandated, but we got to find ways, farmers got to find ways of paying back whatever we give them in seed and fertilizer. But the more money they make, the better for all of us. But ultimately, you see, the whole idea is that two things are going to happen. There's a strong secretariat that has been put in place, and the idea is to look at other value chains and add them to the existing value chains. And then two, the idea is that when these volumes are increased, of course, that is it triggers some of these other value things I just spoke about. And at some point in time, what we should see happening within this landscape will be that farmers then, instead of historically compensating lack of yield with pricing, will now have enough yields that the prices can be stable and they can get efficient return on their investments in a way that will allow you, Mr. Dazi, to set up a factory to do some value addition to maize or do some value addition to rice. Okay.
What's your timeline for achieving a goal like that?
Well, but we're seeing it happening. I mean, the thing about economic development is that our target is that we have so many farmers producing. One D1 is also working on how many factories we want to produce. We should have farmers' income also increase, because we developed a very robust M&E plan that looks like one, farmers' income, farmers' productivity, overall GDP, and other things. And we are tracking those ones too. Okay. We've trained M&E officers, MI officers in all the districts. So we started collecting data. So because we need to also use that to evaluate the progress of works. And as such, then we can say, well, yes, we are achieving our targets. But we are in the process of collecting the data and analyzing the data. Yes, and that's where we are.
Speaking of achieving targets, an ambitious target of about 350,000 jobs was set. How far have you gotten?
Well, we're also compiling that. I mean, don't forget that a number of jobs have been created along the value chain. Some production level, some aggregation level. You also got private sector supplying inputs into the value chain. So, for example, for the first time, we've created a situation where farmers have access to certified seeds. We've seen seed growers now developing their business, employing more people, multiplying seeds, what they call certified seeds. We also got people now doing a bit of value addition. So we're compiling all that data. I mean, that's why we say that it's not, we're not counting jobs at just the production level. We're counting jobs along the whole value chain.
Some of these targets were given timelines. Some of these targets were put in the budgets for end of year.
We're talking about 216 districts in this country. We're talking about within the districts, there are various communities in the country. So there are a lot of outplay. We are collecting the data carefully so that tomorrow, when I put out that data, Mr. Darcy won't say, Mr. Kobo, this data is false because a farmer says this. No. You take data, you analyze data, you verify data before you put out data. We're just a week in 2018. The fiscal year ended December. The farming season, basically, people are still trading. We are still recording it. We're doing a lot of work collecting data on the field.
When will this data be ready? Because we are looking at numbers in terms of how much the cash flow from LBCs through to the farmers. We are looking at numbers in terms of number of jobs that are created along the value chain, how they are created. When will it be ready?
Let's separate two things. For that, let's make it simple. Farmers' income. I'm saying that we're compiling that. That's the first thing. Two, in terms of jobs, we're also compiling the data. And I'm saying that we're in the first week of January. I'm sure within the next few weeks, all this data, we'll put them together. Of course, it's in the interest of the ministry, the of the government, to put out this data. Because at the end of the day, you've set out targets. You have to come out and indicate whether you've achieved those targets or not. You have to do it. And the press will let you know what it is. But before we give out data, we want to verify and ensure that that data is solid.